Mid-1400s, the Ottoman Empire had swallowed up all the land around it. The city was like an island in an Ottoman sea. The new, young Sultan, Mehmed II, was only 21 years old. But he was fiercely intelligent and incredibly determined. He made capturing Constantinople his life's mission. He famously said, "I will either take the city, or the city will take me." Mehmed II prepared for the siege with incredible care. He was a master of new technology. He hired a Hungarian engineer named Orban to build enormous cannons. These were some of the biggest cannons the world had ever seen. One of them was so big it was called the Great Turkish Bombard. It took 60 oxen to pull it and could fire a massive stone ball over a mile. Mehmed also built a powerful navy to blockade the city from the sea. He gathered a huge army, perhaps over 80,000 soldiers, including his elite janissaries. He was not going to leave anything to chance. The defenders of the city were brave, but they were vastly outnumbered. The siege began in April 1453. For 53 days, the giant Ottoman cannons pounded the ancient walls of Constantinople. The noise was terrifying and could be heard for miles around. The defenders worked tirelessly to repair the damage, but it was a losing battle. The city was also protected by a huge chain that blocked its harbor, the Golden Horn. In a stroke of genius, Mehmed ordered his ships to be dragged overland on greased logs and put into the harbor behind the chain. This brilliant move shocked the defenders and tightened the siege even further. They were now surrounded on all sides. The final assault came on the 29th of May, 1453. The janissaries led the charge. After a fierce and desperate fight, they broke through a gate in the walls. The city fell. The last Byzantine emperor, Constantine XI, died fighting bravely with his soldiers. When Mehmed II rode into the city, he was amazed by its beauty. He immediately declared it the new capital of his empire. He renamed it Istanbul and turned the great church, the Hagia Sophia, into a mosque. The fall of Constantinople was a world-changing event. It marked the end of the Byzantine Empire after more than 1,000 years, and it cemented the Ottoman Empire as one of the most powerful forces on earth. After the conquest of Constantinople, the Ottoman Empire entered its golden age. This was, a time of great power, wealth, and cultural achievement. And the ruler who oversaw this incredible period was Sultan Suleiman I. In Europe, he was known as Suleiman the Magnificent. In his own empire, he was known as Suleiman the Lawgiver, or Kanuni. He ruled for 46 years from 1520 to 1566, longer than any other sultan. His reign is often seen as the absolute peak of Ottoman power. He was a brilliant military commander, a wise ruler, and a great patron of the arts. Under Suleiman, the empire reached its largest size. His armies marched deep into Europe. They conquered Belgrade in Serbia and the island of Rhodes. They won a huge victory at the Battle of Mohacs in 1526, which crushed the Kingdom of Hungary. His forces even laid siege to the great city of Vienna in 1529, which sent shockwaves of fear across all of Christian Europe. Although the siege failed, it showed just how far Ottoman power could reach. In the east and south, he expanded the empire into Mesopotamia, which is modern-day Iraq, and took control of much of North Africa. The Ottoman navy, under the famous Admiral Barbarossa, dominated the Mediterranean Sea. But Suleiman wasn't just about war and conquest. He was also a great administrator. He was called the lawgiver for a reason. He completely overhauled the Ottoman legal system. He wanted to create a single, clear set of laws that covered everything from criminal law to taxes. This new legal code, known as the Kanun, helped to govern the huge and diverse empire fairly. It balanced the traditional Islamic law, or Sharia, with the needs of a modern state. This brought stability and order to his millions of subjects, no matter their religion or background. It was a massive achievement that shaped the empire for centuries. Suleiman also presided over a fantastic cultural boom. He was a poet himself, and he sponsored countless artists, architects, and writers. The capital, Istanbul, became a glittering center of art and learning. The most famous person from this time was the chief architect, Mimar Sinan. Sinan designed over 300 major structures, including magnificent mosques, bridges, and palaces. His masterpiece is the Süleymaniye Mosque in Istanbul, a breathtaking building that still dominates the city's skyline. This period saw a flowering of beautiful calligraphy, painted tiles, textiles, and poetry. It was truly a golden age, with Suleiman the Magnificent at its very heart. So what was it like to live in this sprawling, powerful empire? For many people, life was actually quite stable and prosperous, especially during the Golden Age. The empire was, you could say, a true melting pot of cultures. It included Turks, Arabs, Greeks, Serbs, Armenians, Jews, and well, many other groups too. Istanbul itself was one of the biggest and most diverse cities in the world. People of different faiths and backgrounds lived and worked together. While Islam was the state religion, Christians and Jews were generally allowed to practice their faith. They were organized into communities called millets. Each millet was allowed to govern its own affairs. They could use their own language, run their own schools, and follow their own religious laws for things like marriage and divorce. They were led by their own religious leaders, like the Greek Orthodox Patriarch or the Jewish Chief Rabbi. These leaders were responsible to the Sultan for their community. This system allowed the empire to manage its incredible diversity without forcing everyone to be the same. Of course, non-Muslims had to pay an extra tax, the jizya, and they did face some restrictions. But honestly, for the time, it was a remarkably tolerant way of running a multi-religious state. Trade was the lifeblood of the empire. Because of its location, it controlled the major trade routes between Europe and Asia. Spices, silk, and other valuable goods from the east had to pass through Ottoman lands to get to Europe. This made the empire incredibly wealthy. Bustling markets or bazaars were the heart of every city. You could find goods from all over the known world. The Grand Bazaar in Istanbul is a perfect example. It was a massive, covered market with thousands of shops selling everything you could imagine, from carpets and jewelry to spices and ceramics. This trade brought not just money, but also new ideas and influences into the empire. Daily life for ordinary people was centered on family, community, and religion. For Muslims, the call to prayer 5 times a day was a constant rhythm of life. Coffee houses became hugely popular places where men would gather to drink the new, exciting beverage, talk politics, play backgammon, and listen to storytellers. Public baths, or hammams, were also important social centers for both men and women. The empire was famous for its food, a rich blend of Middle Eastern, Balkan, and Central Asian traditions. Life was a vibrant mix of different cultures, all living under the rule of the Sultan in Istanbul. Even at the height of its power under Suleiman, the seeds of decline were already being sown. After Suleiman's death in 1566, the empire began a long, slow period of stagnation and decay. One of the biggest problems was a series of less capable sultans. Suleiman was followed by a line of rulers who were not as skilled in warfare or government. Many preferred to spend their time in the luxury of the palace harem rather than leading their armies. This led to a breakdown in central authority. Power began to shift from the sultan to other figures in the palace, like the Grand Vizier or even the sultan's mother. Corruption also became a major issue. As the central government weakened,